So Abner, we've been away for a little while. We've had a little bit of a break. We're back. It's CES season. We've seen some things release. We've had a January update for the Pixel and a few other bits and pieces surrounding that. How was your time away? I know that things are a little bit difficult in terms of LA and California at the minute, but other than that, all good?
Yeah, we're jumping right back into the year. CES, as always, kicks off the year, but to what you're alluding to, we had a pretty big phone launch already this early into 25.
We have, yeah. I mean, this one's a little bit delayed, isn't it? Because technically it released in China first, and now we have this global release. For anyone who is wondering what the hell we're talking about, it's a OnePlus 13. If you didn't already know, it is OnePlus releases over the last few years, I feel like, getting bigger and bigger. I know that you don't spend as much time with OnePlus devices as I do, but I'd love to get your thoughts on OnePlus products in general. Have you spent much time with them in the past?
I just have one thing to say here.
Yeah.
Does the circular camera bump not being centered bother you?
Do you know what? It hasn't, probably, until you've mentioned it, actually, because it does mean that it doesn't sit flat upwards on a desk. But when you have a case, it doesn't matter that much. But it is a bit weird because it's a huge section of the phone. But
yeah, I've been
coming from the
Pixel
Pixel 9 Pro.
Yeah, from past Pixels and current Samsung devices, it's obviously never been centered. It's Samsung is in the corner, Google is in the corner until the camera bar. I don't know, the fact that it's circular really...
Does that confuse you a little bit? Like, I know some people are like, why is it circular? And when I've shown people the phone, they're like, why is it circular? And I can't give them an answer.
I think I'm fine with the shape, but it's just... I don't know. It's just... Given that it's a circle, it's a shape people are aware of, and the fact that it's not perfectly centered, that...
it probably is exacerbated. You mentioned that it's not centered. The Find X8 Pro, if I can get that correct, is the basis for the OnePlus 13. And that has a central camera system. And it has a better camera system, which is a bit disappointing, but there's costs on top of that. But to kind of just give a little bit of a wrap-up of the OnePlus 13, I think genuinely this is one of the strongest OnePlus phones there's ever been, because I think last year with the OnePlus 12, it surprised me so much that I genuinely think it was the best phone of last year because of the improvements that they made year over year over year. And I think one thing I have to give them credit for is they've listened to the complaints people have had. And I think Google are doing this as well, actually. And there's two companies that are definitely doing it, whereas Samsung just continue to do what they're doing. OnePlus, BBK owning Oppo as well, they're like kind of listening to complaints and trying their best to kind of resolve them. They've done that with Oxygen OS 15, which was a really strong update, really close to stable Android 15 release. And the OnePlus 13, if anyone's out there looking for a device, I genuinely think this goes toe to toe, and in a lot of ways is better than the Pixel 9 Pro XL. The bang for your buck that you get with the OnePlus device over the last couple of years has been genuinely tough to beat. It's a shame the camera's a little bit of a downgrade. I do think sometimes it. I love Hasselblad's tuning. I think it's really, really good, but I just think that it's a little bit downgraded in terms of like the zoom capabilities versus the OnePlus 12. But yeah, it's a fantastic phone. I've seen some people online say it's the best Android phone ever, and I would maybe temper that a little bit. But I don't think it's a very, very bad way to start the year. I think it's an exceptional phone to start the year.
So to what you were saying about so start of the year, Samsung is coming next, obviously. Is it a wait and see approach, or I don't know?
Do you mean if someone was looking to upgrade potentially, or just in general? I think genuinely OnePlus going out first was, hey, they've put their front foot forward and they've made a fantastic device. I think Samsung. I'm interested to see what Samsung does with the S25 Ultra. We all know the S series is that they're always the biggest selling on Android, so it's important to see what Samsung's doing because it kind of sets the scene for the rest of the year. And I know that obviously Google going a little bit earlier as well is going to be interesting. But yeah, in terms of a start, hey, OnePlus they've gone out and I think they've hit a home run in a lot of ways. Yeah, definitely. I think they've made a fantastic product. I'm excited to see what everybody else has, because if this is the start of the year, by the end of the year, we're going to have some really fantastic products if everybody builds upon what others have kind of like laid the foundations for. But in terms of like the launch, it's strange. It's still really strange. First week of January having a product of this size.
I don't know. I know people buy phones whenever, and I think the earlier than usual launches most impact enthusiasts like us.
Yeah.
People who buy anything day one. I guess my general question, is there a bet that what is the best time to launch a phone, something as important as a phone? I don't know, launching something with them and Samsung so close after the holiday shopping season, that traditional season, it always a bit weird to me because people just made their purchases. I don't know. It's, again, like, I know most people buy phones when they need them, when there's dies or
their cell plan
whatever.
ends. Yeah, I don't know. It's a strange one. It is a really strange one. I think that it feels weird that we had a lot of brands that used to release just after MWC, and then obviously there's a lot of hype around MWC, and then we'd have a product launch for, say, Samsung or wherever it happens to be, and then nobody wants to kind of go toe to toe with Apple anymore, which I think is sensible.
Which has changed though at the same time.
Yeah. I think before everyone wants to get close.
But last year.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to just steer clear of what Apple are doing, and going out in the start of January, like you say, I do agree with you. It is strange coming just after that holiday period and that Christmas period where people might be looking to buy things. But I guess I can only talk from someone in the UK. I don't know a single person, apart from maybe someone who's like a teenager and who doesn't have access to their own funds, would get a gifted phone for Christmas. I can't imagine I would ever gift a family member a smartphone for Christmas or for the birthday. I don't know. Maybe that's just me being like, I'm a Yorkshireman, so I'm tight anyway.
Like taking advantage of deal. Yeah, I agree with gifting. It's kind of really changed. A phone is so critical.
Yeah,
that it kind of changed it over the past few decades or so. I'd say it's definitely changed the dynamics of whether something's a gift versus a utility, like getting a new laptop. A phone is absolutely as important as that in this day and age. But I don't know, like shopping deals, people taking advantage of deals during that December period. That's what I would think people gravitate towards. But yeah, it's this new year, new phone. It's an interesting dynamic.
No, I agree with you. And at the end of the day, I think that one thing that does, what's the best way to describe it, soften the blow, is that the OnePlus 13 is $900. Like, there are not many phones that are going to come under that for the rest of the year as their kind of retail price.
Flagship too.
Yeah, I mean, there are a few corner-cutting things like there always are, but it's getting fewer and far between now. I think that it almost feels like, I don't know if, I'm guessing this does apply to everything, it feels like a loss leader in that OnePlus are making probably minimal profit on these devices and just saying we want to get devices in as many hands as possible. But yeah, it's a great start. I think it's a great device. We have some content on site. Go check that out. I do think it does go toe-to-toe with the Pixel 9 Pro XL because you get a lot of bang for your buck. As much as I love the Pixel 9 Pro XL, there are some reasons I definitely would choose the OnePlus over it. So yeah, it keeps everyone on their toes, which is good. I think that's we want this. We want this, don't we? And obviously Samsung to come in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, we're in for a really strong start in terms of smartphones, and especially on the Android side of things. But I don't think I've seen anything particularly impressive from CES at this stage. I feel like CES is kind of waning a bit. I don't know. What do you think? I know you didn't go this year.
I concur. So it's actually pretty smart for Samsung and OnePlus to take up the cycle, the consumer electronics cycle. If there's nothing big out of CES, it's good that these two companies are taking it, occupying that space, that mindset. But yeah, it's a general trend for CES and consumer electronics, I'd say. That traditional model of announcing everything early in the year, so it's ready by, again, the holiday shopping season. That's definitely been changed in the past few years.
I think for the better. I think in a lot of ways that's a good thing because you're not having that wait cycle. I feel like maybe 10 years ago, like you mentioned, that I think you would have something announced and Sony does this. Sony does this with their Xperia line and it drives me insane. They announced the product in like, I don't know, I can't even think of the date. Like, so let's just say May for argument's sake. And then they released the product in September and it's like, you could have had 4 months. You've had 4 months now where you just could have kept quiet and just done your announcement and the product lineup. I don't know. It seems strange to me, but I think CES has become a bit of a hodgepodge of re-releases and devices that maybe have a slightly bigger battery and they put an S at the end of it and AI shoehorned into everything. It definitely feels like that over the past couple of years.
On the Google front,
special, but
the announcements this year were very much focused on Google TV and Gemini, which makes a lot of sense in terms of how CES is a big television show. And I think it's one of you announce new televisions now, it's ready by year's end, that kind of thing. I think that's what makes sense. So the Google stuff they announced is bringing Gemini models, that's a key distinguisher, to Google TV, to televisions. So it's not, you're still going to get the Google Assistant. It's the Google Assistant infused with these Gemini models, just like what's being tested on the Nest Mini, Nest Audio right now, and presumably other devices in the future. Basically, the idea is that you can have basically like a Gemini live conversation about general knowledge stuff with your TV, and you get the added benefits of graphics and videos that help answer your question. So we saw some of the UI. I basically think this is the UI that's going to appear on smart displays too, which haven't entered the testing phase yet for Google Assistant Gemini. We need a better name for that. There's no Gemini Google Assistant.
I don't know what they're going to do with it, but it kind of muddies the water a little bit having a combined name. I don't know what they'll do with it, but I'm sure they'll have something.
It's going to be Google Assistant. Again, the branding is Google Assistant, but on phones, it's just Gemini. Earlier this week, we saw signs that Gemini is coming to Wear OS, and we've already seen it on earbuds and tablets. So if it's vaguely mobile, it's going all in on Gemini. But the indicator we've seen smart home stuff, anything stationary, is Google Assistant right now. And I guess that makes sense as a dividing line. Gemini on the watch, I'm curious about.
Yeah, I was about to say,
Gemini on earbuds right now is pretty. It's just like a rebranded. Save for Gemini Live, it's a rebranded Google Assistant. And I kind of feel like the watch is going to get the same experience there.
Yeah, the watch seems really strange. I'm like, my first thought is, how's it going to differentiate itself? I mean, then again, does it need to? I don't know. I'm not the kind of person who would speak to my watch.
I've been using it a bit more.
You've used it a bit more.
It's to launch apps. It's not the fastest way, but it's interesting. But I think the biggest thing they can do to add to make Gemini on your wrist a bit more interesting is adding Gemini extension support, so that you can access Gmail, that you can play music,
that
access
would be cool.
calendar events, that kind of thing in a conversational manner. I don't think you're getting Gemini Live on your wrist because
I'm sure there's some processing element there that would cause a limitation, surely.
Yeah, and
especially where it is now.
Absolutely, and I think what you're getting is just the same voice experience, but a bit more conversational, and hopefully, fingers crossed, you get extension support so that it's just much more capable. But I think in that sense, it'll be a little bit more exciting than Gemini Live on earbuds. So we'll wait and see.
Just going back to that Gemini Live on earbuds for a moment, and this is a completely out-of-pocket statement. I think I don't know why, but that's just kind of made me think of how the Android AR is going to work. So Gemini in earbuds is limited by the fact that you don't have that visual element. I find. I think that sometimes you don't have that visual element, and sometimes the feedback is a little bit, it's a little bit so-so. because you can't act on that. Like you can, for instance, with a visual thing. Like I sometimes ask Gemini Live for like advice on stuff, like on where to get things, where to watch things, that kind of thing. And I found that on earbuds it doesn't work as nicely because I don't know. Maybe my brain detaches the person. Well, I say the person.
No,
the
agreed.
AI. So I do wonder what will happen with that as it progresses. Because if the AI is going to overtake it, and we're going to have glasses that don't necessarily have the visual element, I'm intrigued to see that. I guess we'll find out later on in the year. But
the limiting thing about Gemini Live right now, it's just for conversations. It's for general knowledge. It's really, we are still waiting for extension support. Extension support would go a long way to make Gemini Live feel more actionable. And in general, like I'm wondering what Google's grand plan for this is, but right now you have two voice experiences on Gemini with the Gemini app on your phone. There's a general full experience and live. One has to think that they eventually converge together into one thing. But I don't know, like maybe it makes sense once they introduce the Astro camera capabilities. But I don't know, there's two distinct voice experiences right now. And Gemini Live as this conversational mode, it's a mode basically. It really needs to be more actionable because just talking, I think that only gets you so far in terms of how practical it is in your day-to-day life versus something like tell it to put stuff on your calendar, on your task.
No, I agree.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's one of those things that kind of limits it, and I'm interested to see how it kind of evolves into, like you say, that smart home space and how it integrates with your TV, because obviously you could add things to your watch. I think being able to add things to your watch list, or say like automations and stuff, I think is where I think Gemini could be better than what the Google Assistant currently does, because there's limitations of like for instance,
it's how you talk. It's just free form, not being able to, not conforming yourself to how Google Assistant wants you to talk. Yeah,
and I guess that kind of, I'm interested to see where, I know that Google also announced that they're partnering with MediaTek to make some chipsets for smart home devices. So I wonder how that's going to help with that audio processing. How the next generation of what we see, smart home displays, if it's Google Home, whatever it happens to be, how those evolve.
Yeah, so the other big part of Google's Gemini announcement is, the TVs, Gemini TVs, is that they're making this ambient mode to reflect how some TVs are on all the time, showing just images and that kind of stuff. So this ambient mode, so it involves adding a proximity sensor to smart TVs, which it basically, you're turning them into gigantic smart displays in the traditional Google Assistant smart display sense. So you see a dashboard of just your information, of your weather, your upcoming calendar, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I feel that does make sense. In like, so I don't even want to like say hotels, but that's what I've envisioned it as. I don't know what it'd be like in a home, because I would never leave my TV on permanently, but I'm sure some people do. And I think maybe having it in areas, so like an office or that kind of thing, I can definitely see the utility there.
It makes a lot of sense in that regard.
Yeah, like I don't see the utility there as in the home, but I'm not the target market for that. Do you know what I mean?
The immediate thing I see is that people are going to touch their TVs.
That's a good point.
Think that's going to be so annoying to clean, because everything is touch. You're just so used to that idea, and you really cannot touch TV screens. You just can't.
It's like it is a faux pas. It is a faux pas when you get thumbprints all over your TV.
It's in one way it makes a lot of sense. Of course, your TV should be able to do everything a smart display can. Your Echo Show, your Nest Hub, but I just wonder how annoyed people are going to be when, one, you can't touch it, like unlike everything else in your digital life, and two, and that you have to use the remote for it.
I was about to say, I wonder how the remote control will change how certain
which gets the other part of this.
Okay.
Because you have to use audio interaction. This moving the microphone to the TV, again, makes it a gigantic smart display even more. But I hope these voice UIs in terms of interacting what you see on your screen is as good, because I just think people get frustrated and try to touch the screen.
It's one of those things, I think, that and I think I mentioned it in my Google TV streamer review, it does kind of turn your home into a big home hub of sorts, but you're still very much, I don't want to say in control, because that's not the way to describe it. It's more like you steer it as opposed to you tell it to steer. And I think that's the problem I think I'm finding with a lot of voice activated systems is you can give the most clear directions, and the end result, or the kind of the route that the device takes, can be completely different day to day.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if you have, I still find this problem with Google Assistant, whereas if you don't, like you say, don't use the right statement in the right tone, it sometimes just gets confused. And
yeah,
I think that is, again, something I'm really intrigued to see what happens with this Gemini Google Assistant merge and kind of integration. And like you say, having all of those same facilities that we've come to know and love, like adding things to task lists, but amending things, changing things. And if AI is what Google is, if Gemini is the future of what Google's going to do, we need to start seeing these things come to fruition soon, because there are so many products that are going to be directly affected by it. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see what happens with it. I'm also intrigued to see, I alluded to it a moment ago, is that where this MediaTek and Google partnership goes in terms of like smart home tech. Like, does this SoC mean that we're going to have way more Google Home products, or Google Gemini Home product, whatever they end up calling it? Like, what do you currently foresee? What's your kind of crystal ball seeing in the future, Abner?
It's smart. It ties in with Google had some other developer announcements about basically the Google Home API is the idea that you can let apps integrate. Like, the one example they had is once you know your food delivery is coming, you can turn on the porch lights automatically. It's these integrations, letting third-party apps access some aspects of your homes, that obviously raises some questions, of almost red flags about it has to be done securely, privately, that kind of stuff. But I wonder whether smart home adoption is really that far along, and that smart home stuff works for most people. I would say that most people have simpler smart home setups, like lights, that is probably the extent, or smart doorbells, that kind of stuff. I'm just curious whether, well, I guess if it's like a small scale experience, that stuff might be fine. But I'm just curious how much developer interest there really is into, don't get me wrong, it sounds futuristic as heck, like having, if once your Postmates or whatever drivers near, the lights automatically turn on. That sounds cool. That sounds convenient. Absolutely. But I just wonder how well it'll work, and how much people will seek out these experiences.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, it does sound really futuristic. I wonder if this is a little bit like the glass, like almost futuristic experience what glass was supposed to provide, and then we basically end up in a situation where your house is fully controlled by automated third parties, effectively, because everything's tied into you. Well, not your Google account, but the account's linked to you. And like you say, you have a delivery driver arrives, the lights light them around the back, for instance. So you don't want them to drop it off at the front door. You want them to drop it off at the side. I don't know. I think it feels very futuristic, but I just, like you said, I do agree with you in that the kind of person who wants this is the kind of person who's going to go above and beyond to set up their smart home system. And it's whether or not those companies, I mean, I could foresee Uber getting involved with it, like you say, Uber Eats, those kind of companies, because it looks good on them. But yeah, is there enough interest from the developers? It remains to be seen, right? It remains to be seen. But I agree with you. It looks cool. It sounds cool anyway, in theory. It sounds really cool, actually. I think it would be amazing.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's CES adjacent stuff. So I guess just to round things out, we had the first Pixel update of the year.
Yeah, slightly later than expected, right? It was we usually expect it on a Monday, but it was on Tuesday.
Yeah, the first update of the year is always coming back from holidays, all that stuff.
I guess this wasn't the biggest of updates because we had that huge December feature drop. Or Pixel Drop, whatever they want to call it nowadays. I'm
not calling it Pixel Drop. I'm just not. It's. I'm not going into that now. It's just the feature drop. I can't.
At Pixel Feature Drop, we're sticking with Pixel Feature Drop for now. We'll do it. We will carry it to our grave. I think it's going to be Pixel Feature Drop. But this was eligible, obviously, for quite a big array of devices. But there wasn't many fixes for the older handsets out there. This just was focused on Pixel 8 series and Pixel 9 series from what we've seen publicly, right? I'm guessing sometimes there are fixes and performance boosts and stuff like that, but we don't necessarily see. But at least publicly, it was mostly focused on the big two, right?
Yeah, like themed icons, fixing the themed icons, the flipping of light and dark mode. Actually, the biggest update in that regard was the Pixel 4a. Google released a totally out of cycle 2 years later or so update addressing battery performance. So this power battery management program, whatever, basically it's decreasing the battery capacity, charge speeds of the Pixel 4a for some people, for some Pixel 4a owners. I actually need to boot up my devices to see what this update is all about, if there's any noticeable change. But and the question is how many people are still using the 4a at this point?
Yeah, I think that was the one thing I thought that was like, oh, how many people are actually still using that device? I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still my favorite Pixel phone, period. And I don't know if you agree. I'm pretty sure you agree with me.
The 8a is a pretty good.
Yeah,
the 8a is a larger version of that.
Yeah, I guess I still think I prefer I think the 4a's form factor was incredible at the time.
Small, absolutely charming.
I mean, yeah. Here's one thing I will say. There are a lot of people out there who, and rightly, they will critique what Google are doing with software, hardware, whatever it is, discontinuing products. I think it's very rare to see an OEM of any size, shape, form, whatever it is, go back and support or provide an update, period, for a product that is completely out of cycle, completely out of warranty, just effectively forgotten about. So, credit where it's due. Google has gone back and I don't know what they've done with the battery, like you said. I'm guessing there's it's specific hardware or a specific lithium-ion battery or whatever they're using in the device that potentially causes a battery issue, and they've decided to mitigate it by pushing this update. I think that deserves some credit. But at the same time, there is also the benefit here that when people were talking about will Google support their devices for 7 years, well, that's a 5-year-old phone. And they've gone back to at least make some form of effort to support it, whichever way it needed it. So I kind of think that it's good in some ways that while it potentially has negative effects for battery life, at least people now know that hopefully, I mean, I'm definitely going to curse myself by even saying this out loud, if in say 5 years' time or a couple of years' time when the Pixel 6 is supposed to be getting its last update, it will potentially get those 5 years of updates that have been promised. I don't know, that's a bit of a strong one, but the upside is, I think, are Google going to offer specific remedies for it? I remember reading. Yeah, I'm trying to remember what I read.
So yeah, if your device is eligible, you either can get a free battery replacement, either in store or mailed in, I believe. And if those options are convenient to you, you get either $100 Google Store credit or $50 just straight to you. I think the Google Store credit ends January 26th, I believe.
January 2026. Sorry, I thought you said January 26th of this month, because that'll be very quick. But yeah, I guess that's quite good. I do have a 4A, and I think it is affected when I put in my IMEI. But I can't remember. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, because the store credit, I think, is towards a new purchase of a Pixel, but I don't need any Pixel devices. So I'm kind of on the fence of what I actually do. I don't know if you're in the same boat as me. Maybe I'll just take the straight up cash. It might be the way to do it. But I think that's pretty good on a $350, £350 phone. I think the £50, $50, whatever it is in your local currency equivalents, that's pretty darn good on a device that you probably paid even less for that a long time ago. Yeah. So
again, it's probably just sitting in your drawer at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Even if it's a backup device, I think if you want to get the battery change, you can do that, and you have a fresh battery in a backup device. So yeah, credit where Google. Let's give Google some credit, so I can even say it. It's been a long week. The first week back. But yeah, that's just been a kind of a hodgepodge of what's been going on these last couple of weeks. I know that we're not really getting our teeth into anything, but we expect some cool stuff to be coming in the next few weeks. Maybe we'll see something from Android 16 in the before the end of the month, which I'm excited for. Just want to say thanks everyone for joining us. This is the first one back after a while, so forgive us for a little bit disjointed. There hasn't been a great deal of things going on, I think, compared to a regular week. But yeah, really enjoyed spending time with you this week, Abner. Hopefully things are all safe and secure for you over there in the US. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
Happy 2025, everyone.
Happy 2025, everyone. Yeah, Happy New Year. It feels a bit late to be saying that, but yeah, thank you for joining us for episode 36, and we'll see you in episode 37 very soon.
Bye.